Morning, as we go to the Chumash of today. We are holding, today is Tuesday. We are holding the third reading of the portion of Vayikra. We are holding on chapter 2, verse number 7. Minchas marcheshes kabanecha. If your meal offering sacrifice is going to be made in a deep pot, Seilas Bashem Mtiasa, it to be made out of fine flour with oil. So Rashi says, Marcheshes, this was a deep vessel in the temple. And since it is deep, the oil gathers together. And the fire did not burn it. So it's not like a pan. Consequently, the meal offering made in it, it's called in the Torah, it's called Rechushin. As anything which becomes softened through a liquid, since it all comes together on the bottom of the pot, so therefore it's more of a fluffy, like a lafa kind of a mincha. And you shall bring from any of these minchas that are made, you shall be made shiyah me'ela Hashem to God, and you shall bring it to the kohen. And he shall bring it close to the altar. So Rashi says literally, which is made from any of these meal offerings, which are made from one of these types, namely the fine flour baked in the oven, in a pan fire, or in a deep pot. The owners bring it closer to the kohen. And then the kohen brings it closer to the mizbeach. Where does he bring it? He brings it close to the southwestern corner of the altar. And then the kohen lifts out of this mincha, of this meal offering, as askarasa, its reminder, and he brings it on the mizbeach. It's a fire offering of pleasing fragrance to God. Rashi says, what is the askarasa? What is the reminder? That's not the whole mincha, because the mincha is eaten by the kehanim. It's the kemitza. It's the scooping out that is the haskara, is the kemitza. What he takes out with his fingers, that is what's called the askara. And I said it's mincha because the remaining part of the mincha, which is the majority of this meal offering, La'ad and Levana, was given to Aaron and his sons. Kodesh Kadoshim. It's holy of holies, Me'ishi Hashem. Now, you know, whenever it says holy of holies, we know it means that it's not allowed to leave the Beis Hamikdash, the Mishkan. It was not allowed to leave. Something that was Kodesh Kadoshim needed to be eaten in the Beis Hamikdash. So the mincha couldn't take home the mincha in Yerushalayim, wherever he lived. He couldn't take it home. The Kehanim need to eat it in the Beis Hamikdash. Kol mincha. Any kind of an offering, any kind of meal offering, Ashetakiv Lashem, that you bring to God, Loisase chametz. You're not allowed to make it chametz. All minchas were unleavened bread. Because anything that makes something leavened, whether it's yeast, whether it's honey, Loisaktiru mimenu ish Lashem, is not allowed to bring it off. The chametz was never brought in the Beis Hamikdash. Besides, Shtei Alechem, on Shavuos was brought chametz, but in general, the Beis Hamikdash was Pesach dik, Passover. Called dvash, kol masika pri kru dvash. Any sweet fruit over here does not mean actually honey per se. Any kind of sweet, so apple juice, orange juice, whatever it might be. Karba, verse 4:12. Karba reishis takiva isla Hashem. You shall bring them as the first fruit offering to God. You should not bring it to the altar as a pleasing fragrance to the Lord. So here Rashi says what I mentioned a second ago, that in general, no chametz was brought to the Beis Hamikdash, and surely not on the Mizbeach. We can bring leaven and honey to the Beis Hamikdash only is the shtei halechem, the 2 loaves of bread brought on Shavuos, which come from leaven. As it says in the time of Shavuos, you shall take baked leavens later on. So Bikurim, the first fruit, that was when the first fruit was brought. They also brought in the temple the Shtei HaLechem, the two breads. So that was brought in the Beis Hamikdash, but it was not brought on the altar, the Shtei HaLechem. The mincha was brought, the kmitza, what you took away from the mincha was brought on the mizbeach. Call number 13, v'kol birkar b'minchasecha, and you shall salt every one of your meal offerings. B'melech timlech, leisas bismelech, you shall never not omit salt. It's a covenant that God made with salt. Meyal minchasecha, from your meal offerings, always had to have salt. Al kol kabanecha, not only on the mincha, but on all your all sacrifices. By melech, the takriv melech, you had to always have salt. Now she says, what means a covenant with salt? Well, there was a covenant made with salt since the 6 days of creation. And the lower waters were promised when God separated on the second day the upper waters from the lower waters were hurt, so to say, that they were separated to be on the lower waters. The lowest water is the Yam HaMelech. The lowest water in the world is the salt water, the Yam HaMelech. So the Dead Sea, it's called today, and there was always brought salt. So the Eibusha said that I'm going to put you lower, but ultimately you're going to be on every carbon. Al kol b'kabanechel, including burnt offerings for animals and birds and imurim portions. Everything had salt. That's right, Jews like salt. Verse number 14. Im takev minchas bikurim Hashem, and if you bring in a meal offering of the first grains to God, aviv koli, it shall be first grain, a meal offering from barley. This is the Pesach offering that was brought on the second day of Pesach, the omer, that was brought from barley. Bagerish karamel takevis mishal kibekurecha, parched over fire, kernels full with their husks, shall be coarse meal. That's what you bring the mincha. The first mincha of the grain was brought from barley. Now she says, im takev. Now the word over here has the meaning key when, not if, because that's an obligation, because it's not an optional. Titus refers to minchas omer, the omer offering of the community sacrifice brought on the 16th day of Nisan. This will happen the second day of Pesach, when we start counting the omer, which is obligation. So over here, im is not if, but when. Minchas bikurim. Scripture is referring to the mincha of the omer, the mincha, the meal offering of the omer meal offering, which was offered in Aviv. It was offered on Pesach, which means in the springtime, meaning as soon as the grain is ripened, it comes, and it comes from barley. And how do we know that it comes from barley? For here the verse says Aviv, and earlier it says Ki Yasa'ira Aviv, for the barley was ripened. So that's a Gzeda Shava, Aviv. So we know that it comes from barley. Gedish Carmel, it's broken up while still moist. That's what it's called, Carmel. Gedish, the expression denoting breaking up or grinding in a grit millstone, or likewise, indeed, he made me teeth grind, is the word Gedish, grinding. Carmel, you grind it while it's still in the husk, is mali, full. Thus means the grain is ground up while the husk, the cod, is still full, when the procedure is still fresh and full in the stalk. Hence, fresh ears of grain is called carmel. Similarly, the sheaves of fresh grain, carmel, is called fresh grain. Satala shemen, and you put upon it oil. Samtala veining, to put it with it frankincense. Mincha this is a mincha. It's the only mincha that was given from barley. All other minchas, all other meal offerings was from silas, was from flour. This is barley. And the kohen shall make a reminder. Again, the kmitza takes a part of it, hand fist, and he brings it up as an askara, as a remembrance, from its flour, from its oil, Al koil of Venus with all its frankincense, Ishal Hashem, it's a fire offering to God of this mincha. And that completes the Chumash for today. We now go to the Tanya of the day. So we continue the 36th chapter of Tanya. We continue this chapter. A question arises, however, how is it possible, even upon the subjugation of Klippa and transforming them into holiness, that we in this world should experience a revelation of Ein Sof? We're still humans. So how is it possible to say that that through a human being, a regular person, subjugates himself, breaks himself, does the mitzvah l'shem shamayim, because God wanted him to do the mitzvah, you're going to reveal God in the world? How is that possible? God is infinite. I am finite. Every mitzvah I do is finite. So therefore, how is it possible? And even higher than the world that cannot receive revelation without dissolving into nothingness. If we're revealing God in the world, why doesn't the world disappear? So the Alter Rebbe answers and says as follows. Now you understand why when you want to connect to God, you cannot say, I'm going to connect to God according to my wishes. I'll decide how to connect to God. It's my personal journey. I'll tell you what it means to connect to God. Why do I need to follow halacha? Why do I need to follow Jewish law? That's one of the questions of the Chacham and the Rasha. Why follow the law? Why, if it's a service of God, God is infinite, I am going to serve God the way I want to serve God. And therefore, we tell them, no, you have to do a mitzvah. Because only God can tell you how he can come down into the world in an infinite way. Because I'm going to give you something that is finite, that can have the capability to reveal this infinite concept. And that's why the Eibishter gave the Yidden the Torah. And that's why we have mitzvahs. That Baruch Hashem, as we say, Ratzah Kodesh Baruch Hu L'Zakis Es Yisrael. The Eibishter wanted to give merit to the Jewish people. He wanted to give merit to humanity, that they would be able to bring infinity into the world, because they couldn't do it on their own. Only the Eibishter, only God, can tell you that you're putting on tefillin today is going to bring infinity in the world. That you're giving tzedakah today is going to bring infinity in the world. That's why in the Torah, a mitzvah is called strength, might, for it gives us strength to receive such revelation without being overwhelmed by it. That the mitzvah is the right vessel. That's why it says, kilchasa. You have to make sure the mitzvah is the right done according to its law. So then the mitzvah that's done according to its law is the right vessel that the Eibishter created. That this vessel has the capability to handle, to put within it Ein Sof, and I should not disappear. As the sage of the blessed memory said, Shakadosh Baruch Hu, that the Eibishter gave strength to tzaddikim to receive to receive their reward in the world to come. That means not only does the mitzvah protect him in this world, the mitzvah protects him in the world to come too. Why is it necessary for strength? Because we don't want, the Eibishter didn't want that in his revelation will nullify the soul even. Whether it's in this world, meaning the Gan Eden, what's now in Gullus, whether it's in the world to come, Gan Eden, or whether it's in the world to come, which then will be Gil Elokus, revelation of God in the world. How is it possible Gil Elokus, revelation of God in the world, Mashiach comes, and we're not going to be bottled? That's because all the mitzvahs that we're doing, every mitzvah we do, we create. That's why in Chassidus, we call it a lavush. We call a mitzvah a garment. The mitzvah garments you. The mitzvah protects you. The mitzvah is the right element that gives you the capability to have a revelation of godliness and not be nullified. Because we don't have the garment, you're nullified. As it's written, when Mashiach comes, your teacher will no longer hide from you. Meaning, not at some some interpret the verse. He will no longer withhold your rains. But follow Rashi. He will no longer conceal himself from you with the edge of a robe or a garment, and your eyes will behold your teacher, because you'll be able to handle it. You're going to meet Hashem. Mashiach's going to come. There's going to be a revelation of God in the world, and every single one of us will be able to handle it. We won't become bottled. Why? Because we'll do Baruch Hashem. We have done unbelievable amount of mitzvahs, and all these mitzvahs are going to protect us, that we have the capability of revelation. As it's written, you shall see eye to eye, meaning that the human eye will see as divine eye sees, meaning we'll clearly see the revelation of that God's light. As it's written in another pasuk, the sun shall no longer be your light by day. You're not going to need the sun anymore for the light of day, because the godliness will be the light of day. Because God will be your eternal light. So the strength to receive this light, imagine that Mashiach comes. That's why it says, Mashiach comes. The light of day won't be the sun anymore. It'll be the light that God created the first day. It's called Oir. Oir. It's a light that's much greater than the light of the sun. It's a light that'll give us the light of our lives. So the strength to receive this light, which will shine forth in the world to come without garments or concealments, we derive from our present study of Torah. The Rebbe stated earlier that the purpose of the entire Shtalshus is revelation of Ein Sof in this world, which occurs when the darkness of Klippas of this world is transformed into the light of holiness. But one may ask, this revelation will take place only hereafter. Mashiach comes. At the present, the Ein Sof light is completely hidden. So what are we're dealing with the future? Right now, I'm doing mitzvahs, I'm learning Torah. Where's the light? The Rebbe will reply that indeed the Messianic era constitutes the purpose of which this world was created. It's known, it's known in Messianic time, especially in the resurrection of the dead when Mashiach the Olam Haba. Is indeed the ultimate purpose and the fulfillment of the creation of this world. The whole purpose of why God created this world is for Mashiach. That is the whole purpose. That's why the Rambam writes it in the 13 Principles of Jewish Faith. It's not a mitzvah, it's mamish, the essence of Yiddishkeit. The whole essence of Yiddishkeit, the whole essence of creation is Mashiach. And the whole essence of creation is not only Mashiach, the whole essence of creation is Chiyas HaMesim, Olam Haba. Because that is Gilui Lakus. So the Gilui, the revelation of God that's going to be in Mashiach, will be nothing in comparison to the revelation of God in Chiyas HaMesim, in the resurrection of the dead in Olam Haba, in the world to come.
Can you define some of those words you said?
Chiyas HaMesim, the resurrection of the dead. Olam Haba, the world to come. So that's the ultimate purpose of creation, was that the Mir Hashem, b'meheiria b'yameinu, speed in our days, is going to be Yemais HaMashiach. Mashiach's going to come. And what means Mashiach? Mashiach means the revelation of godness in the world. And that's only step number one. Step number two is Chiyas HaMesim, the resurrection of the dead, which is called in general Olam Haba, the world to come. And that's the ultimate revelation. So therefore, we should realize the whole purpose of creation, not the purpose only of my Avodah, what I'm doing right now, the mitzvah I'm doing that. That's the whole purpose of creation. And as we know, it's brought down in Kabbalah that the ultimate essential is the seventh millennium, which we are coming closer to. As is brought down in the teachings of the Arizal, where the period until then, constant fulfillment of the will purpose. That's going to be the ultimate rectification of the world. Is Yom Shekul, which we pray in our prayers on Shabbos. Yom Shekul is Shabbos. Elef Ashvi, time of Mashiach, time of Tchias HaMesim, will be the Elef Ashvi, the seventh millennium, going into the seventh millennium, which starts at the beginning of the sixth millennium, going into the seventh millennium, is Yom Shekul Shabbos. We are holding today, Friday, late afternoon. We are holding Friday today, late afternoon, and that's why we are very close to this. And therefore, we go into a day. That's why we say it in our prayers. We say it on Shabbos in the grace after meals. May God grant us that we should merit to the day that it will be Kula Shabbos, the seventh millennium. We'll go into a day that is completely Shabbos, completely holiness, completely shalom, tranquility and godliness and holiness in the world. And that will be the ultimate purpose of why the Eibishter created this whole world and why we went through whatever we went through in the history of the world, is because that the world ultimately needed its rectification and its elevation, really more. Its revelation for its revelation of the coming of Mashiach, and ultimately of Tchias HaMesim, of Olam Haba. May we merit to this, b'meheira b'yameinu mamish, speedily nowadays. And that completes the Tanya for today. Today is the 9th day of the month, which is chapter 49 to chapter 54. If you do those 6 chapters, you would do the chitas of the day. I wish you all a good day, a happy day, and a healthy day. And I'll see you, Mitchamol, tomorrow. We'll continue at 8 a.m. We'll continue the chitas of the day. Have a wonderful and beautiful day.